watching this documentary called American Meme, and it's about all the early internet sensations from Paris Hilton to a bunch of other people I've never heard of. So here's some thoughts on the people from the movie and in relation to myself and what I'm trying to do on YouTube or whatever, in public, on the public internet platform. There's one guy calls himself Kirill, and he goes to parties, he throws parties where he like pours champagne on women and, you know, they get naked and stuff like that. And he appeals to the lowest common denominator. What was interesting about him that I took was he basically did express regret that he's not so happy about being so into that culture, the, you know, partying, you know, drug culture, smut, sluts, skank culture. Yeah, that was what was interesting to me, was that he does have regrets about it. And I think the danger of this whole thing is that once you get famous for one thing, you have to keep doing it. Like, he has to keep being in this party culture, even if he's sick of it, because it's the only thing he's known for. He's not going to be able to branch out necessarily. I think that all these people are very, very conscious of how many views they're getting, and they're constantly trying to maintain their amount of views and trying to get their view count up, and they're very conscious of competitors. Another guy who I'd never heard of calls himself the Fat Jewish, and he's basically just a fat, ugly slob who takes fat, ugly slob pictures. He makes himself into a joke. He'll like run down the street wearing a diaper, you know, anything to get attention, which is pretty great, right? It's pretty amazing. And yeah, so he gets hundreds of millions, or used to get hundreds of millions of views. But, you know, it occurs to me, well, buddy, this is your whole life, though. Like, when you're dead, it's going to say on your gravestone, you know, he, drank 2 tons of maple syrup in order to get views. And he would get paid, like, you know, $100,000 by, like, a shoe company to wear shoes in one of his meme pictures. So he was filthy. He was making tons of money, right? All for being a fat, ugly slob. And then he got busted for stealing other people's memes and just, like, copying them and putting them forward as his own without giving any credit. And I can see that happening. You get addicted. You got so many views and you need to maintain your viewers. So what happens if you're not creative for a week, right? Well, you start looking at other people's stuff. All those people who I view, like Geeks and Gamers, I used to view Geeks and Gamers, Comic Artist, Pro Secrets, Doomcock, all of them. You know, if they watch a smaller channel that comes up with a really good idea, they're going to repeat that really good idea, and they might not necessarily give credit where credit is due, because not every idea is that unique anyways, right? Somebody comments that Ryan Johnson has a round head, right? Maybe Ethan Van Sciver found someone else who said, maybe he got that idea from somebody else, but he liked it and he kept it, and now he gets the credit for it, right? It's tempting, you know, you hear somebody else's idea, and sometimes you don't even remember that it was their idea. You think it's your own. Where do our ideas even come from, right? I still have half an hour to watch of this documentary, which I'll put any thoughts on the last half hour after the credits, in my after credits scene, which I stole from Marvel. It helps me be less bitter when I realize that these people who get all these views, millions of dollars, this is a career for them. Whereas for me, it'll never be more than just a little diary, little soapbox, but it will never take up more than an hour of my day. And I'm not desperate enough for money that I would run down the street in a diaper. Call it pride. Or desperate enough for attention. Of course, I'd like more views, but one must be careful about compromising one's identity, and, you know, all of a sudden you got dancing bunny rabbits on the screen to get more views, and you're getting more views, so now you decide that dancing bunny rabbits should change colors, and before you know it, you're not doing what you set out to do in the beginning, which what I set out to do was just share thoughts that I think are worth sharing. And then before I know it, I'm just having bunny rabbits, and I've lost all my thoughts. So I've come to the conclusion that my YouTube channel is perfect the way it is. There's very little that needs to be improved or changed. Like, maybe I need to have better keywords or better titles. But I'm certainly not going to have animations on the screen. And I don't need to have a million different pictures. Britney Spears will be perfect. She's good enough for this one. And I don't have the internet right now, so I can't download any pictures. I would have downloaded a picture of like Paris Hilton, but too bad, whatever. It's just a picture anyways, and this isn't about pictures. I think I'll just keep making videos the way I'm making them on YouTube. Do nothing differently in terms of YouTube. I'm thinking of spending more time on Twitter, try to get a following on there. I'm pretty good at the written word. That's actually my specialty. And then if I get a big following on Twitter, I can always direct them to YouTube. So there you go. It's funny because they comment on how, Paris Hilton commented on how people don't realize that what they do on the internet is there forever and it'll haunt you. It'll come back to haunt you. Well, in my case, I think it's the exact opposite. It's good that everything I've done is on here forever, because should I ever get a following on Twitter, all these videos will then get tons of views and become popular because they're actually quality. So it's the opposite. And the thing is, I'm not talking necessarily about current news all the time. So many of my YouTube videos are not going to get old in even 20 years. They'll still be interesting and worth watching because they're not dependent on what's going on right now. It's like you either forfeit longevity for instant fame or you forfeit instant fame for longevity. In 20 years, nobody's going to care or even know who Britney Spears was, most likely, or the Backstreet Boys. And going on an even bigger scale, 200 years from now, nobody's going to know who the Beatles were. Nobody's going to really care, I don't think. 500 years from now, nobody's going to know who Elvis was. Nobody's going to care. But 500 years from now, everybody's going to know and care who Bach was. And this is really a delusion of grandeur-ish of me. But I've always thought in terms of I want to be known 1,000 years from now. And of course I probably won't. There's a 1 in a million chance of that. But that's what I'm going for. And of course I'm not going for that with my YouTube video. This is just a little diary. And it's actually me selling out. It's me trying to get viewers, which isn't working. Which is fine. It's still good as a diary. I'm trying to get immortality through art, through my writing. And hopefully one day I can get back into writing classical music. Although it seems pretty difficult because the more I study Bach, the more I realize how bad I am. But that's a whole other subject. Okay, so back to the movie. I'm going to watch the last half hour and then I'll comment in my after credit scene. If you support gays, click like. If you respect blacks, comment. If you think women are people too, click the notification bell. And if you care about sick children, subscribe. The one guy, Kirill, says that he was having sex with a girl one time and she stopped and looked at him and said, "I've never fucked a celebrity before." And he was saying how pathetic she was for being that kind of person. But then, how pathetic is he for being that kind of celebrity? The kind of celebrity that a girl like that would want to have sex with. He said earlier that he appeals to the lowest common denominator, and he knows that. I guess the price of appealing to the lowest common denominator is that your fans are all retards. Oh, this is interesting. He says he doesn't like being alone with his thoughts. He always wants someone around. And what's interesting about that for me is that I've met people like that, these partiers, and they can't handle being alone. And I've come to the conclusion the reason is that when you've got they need somebody there so they can project their charade, and then they can have it confirmed that it's real, right? Like if you act really cool and someone is impressed by you, then it worked. But when you're alone, you can't really act cool because it looks stupid because nobody's impressed. And I love being alone. I love it because I don't think I'm trying to lie to myself. I've met a lot of ladies' men before, and I guess in a way they're popular in their own way. And they're the biggest fakes and the most insecure people I've ever met. They can't handle any kind of criticism, and they're constantly on. They're constantly acting. Yeah, that Kirill guy, he goes, when I'm alone, I have to deal with my dark thoughts and dark ideas. And I'm like, well, I guess that the reason I don't mind being alone is that I'm living with those dark ideas all the time. I don't take a break. It's where I'm living. And you don't need to be that scared, little man, little boy. Like, it's not that bad. They're not actually that dark. They're just real. Actually, I'm just going to take some sound bites from this movie. Because these are the people that people like Doomcock and Geeks and Gamers and Ethan Van Sciver wish they were. right? They wish they had this many followers, because I think all these little YouTubers, they've gone to the dark side in a sense of being obsessed only with getting more viewers and lost track of, their content. The content is now supplementary to getting followers. It should be the other way around.
The end game for these people, I think, is going to be sad. They're in the spotlight, but when it's done, and they're not equipped to do anything else in life. Like, where do you go? So you're getting paid however many thousands of dollars to show up and pour champagne on some chick's boobs. But what happens when you're 50 and no one wants you pouring champagne anywhere on them, or even like breathing on them?
Oh, and this other guy, DJ Khaled, he has like a 2-year-old baby, and he basically promoted his album as having his son, who's like 2 years old, be a co-writer, just because the kid like sat there while he wrote it, and he'd like talk to the kid and say, you like that, and then he's like put his baby on the cover of his album, and then you see him on stage with his baby, and I was like, at first I thought that's kind of clever, but then I'm thinking, you're using your baby as a prop, you're using your own child as a gimmick, and that's pretty sad. It's kind of evil. I mean, who would even think of that, right? That guy Kirill, he's talking about how he wants to kill himself. He says how much he hates people. I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing in empathy, because I don't feel like I want to kill myself because I got away from the people. But I do hate people, and I can relate. I mean, if I was doing what he's doing, I would be so disgusted with everybody. Stark fuckers and people who are impressed by the wrong things. I try to keep myself insulated from that shit. I've seen enough of it to last a lifetime. And he's seen like 10 times more than me. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, who's using who? Is he using them for their views, or are they using him for the vicariousness and to live the lifestyle? Running down the street in a diaper to get views. I mean, when you're a circus clown, it's got to be kind of exhausting and bad on your ego. It's like, where's my soul? I haven't visited it in a long time. Is it still there even? There's like 20 minutes left, and I'm just like, I don't even want to watch it. It's really depressing. And it confirms that I'm doing everything right, because I don't want to have different colored bunny rabbits, and I don't want to dress up like Doomcock, and I don't want to, be like Geeks and Gamers or Comic Book Artist Pro Secrets, covering whatever's current and checking every day to see what's current, so that you can be the first to put up a video and see if you can get up to that level, that number. When I see the lengths that these people go to for views and likes and subscriptions, I think, you know what, I shouldn't have views and likes and subscriptions, because I'm not selling out in any way. In a way, I feel like they deserve it, because they're selling their souls for this stuff. I just realized there's also probably a point where you plateau when you're somebody like Paris Hilton, or this DJ Khaled, or a Fat Jew, or Doomcock, or any of them. You plateau, so you reach a certain level, and then you're just like, all right, so I did it. Now what? And you get tired of having to constantly maintain the viewership and to do the same funny stuff. And I think initially there's a high you get from like, oh my god, I just got my first 1,000 viewers. Now it's 10,000. Oh my god, 100,000, and I'm making money. But that wears off probably within a year, and you're just spent, right? You get exhausted. What happens at the point when you get exhausted, when the high wears off? And then what do you got to show for it, right? And the reason I keep using Doomcock is because he's smarter than most YouTubers, and he's more educated than almost all of them. He actually has an appreciation for literature and whatnot. So in a way I can relate to him, but then it also makes him the biggest sellout, because he's chosen to, instead of pursuing higher things like literature and whatnot, he's just bashing Star Trek Discovery, bashing pop culture. So it feels like even more of a defeat. Like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, he's like a total idiot. He's likable, and I agree with most of the things he says, but he's an idiot. So I don't particularly fault him for spending his whole life on criticizing The Last Jedi or Game of Thrones and Marvel and all of those things. Because what I wouldn't expect more from him. It's not like he's going to talk about something impressive like literature or art criticism or movie criticism, like real movie criticism, right? He's just a dumb guy. Also, a friend of mine once said, there's got to be something wrong with a person to need to be famous. And I've always remembered that. And I would say that there's something wrong with me. I do have that need. And it's not enormous, so I'm okay with, the older I get, the less I want it. But the friend of mine who said that is a very well-rounded person. He's got a wife and 2 kids. He's got a great job, intelligent as hell. And I think the more well-rounded people don't want fame. They really don't want it. And they also aren't very impressed by celebrities either. They tend to not pay any attention to them. It just occurred to me that probably all of Paris Hilton's fans wish that they could be famous. So every fan is really a wannabe famous person. Like, I feel like I gotta take a shower. This has been so gross, this movie. And then I think, oh, well, the people who are in movies, like Hollywood movies, they're much more prestigious. They're not like these hacks, these people who wear diapers running down the street. But no, they are exactly the same. It's the same all around. They're all whores too. Paris Hilton just said that her biggest fear is to die, and she's terrified of the idea that it's just nothing after you die. And I'm like, oh, you idiot. She's like, that would be the worst. It would be so boring. I'm like, okay, look, I guess you haven't thought about this very much, but it is nothing after you die, sorry. And it's not that bad. It's pretty good, actually. It's fine. The worst would be if there was an afterlife. That's really creepy. I had a dream where I was a ghost once, and it was the most lonely experience ever. Oh, it gets better. Paris Hilton just got even better. She had herself scanned so that she can be in VR, and she can DJ at home, like through the VR thing, and her fans can go into VR and watch her DJing. So just when you thought Paris Hilton can't get any more fake, yep. And now she's talking about her legacy, which is funny because my ringtone. The legacy is exactly what these people have forfeited. Like there's going to be no legacy. You're afraid of death? How about obscurity in the living world? Okay, so the movie's finally over. It was depressing as hell, but uplifting in a sense of reminding me why I'm not doing these things. Why I'm not acting like Doomcock. Okay, so we're done. I'm going to do another video probably like right now about what genius is, because I've got a pretty good idea about what genius is.